Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Tonight we are going to be talking about healing and forgiveness. I'm Dr. Asatar Bear and my co-teacher here, Leah Schaefer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Well, this is such an important topic. We go through life and we get wounded, we get angry at people, we need to forgive others, we need to forgive ourselves. Uh,
Mm.
and it's one of the first things that comes up when you close your eyes and start to meditate. Um, you think about the people that you're upset with. You think about
Do you?
mistakes you've made. I mean, yeah, right. That's one of the things. It's one of the broad
Um,
categories.
is it? Okay.
Oh, you don't. Maybe you have a very
No.
clean conscience.
No. I wouldn't say that, but
You haven't made
I
any mistakes. That's why.
oh my God, no, that's not it either. Um, no, I just think that it's more like to me, it's like I am so stubborn to forgive. And so like I don't really think about forgiveness when I meditate. I think about, well, the pain or the frustration or the anxiety
Right.
or the goal, like all of those things. But I actually don't really think about forgiving people because I'm very stubborn.
Well, the Buddha, of course, said holding on to anger is like holding on to a burning hot coal.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly it, Asatar. It's like that's the thing I'm working with and finding in myself is that it's like the way that Murshid puts it is that it's Hazrat Naya Khan puts it is that it's a poison, and it's a
Yeah.
poison that we're holding in our body. Because I know that for myself and many people it's such a triggering topic, because like in some ways I really do believe there's things that are unforgivable, but on the same note, on the same very note, like if I'm carrying that bitterness in my body, in my heart, or any part of myself, then I'm really just burdening myself. And I really feel like the forgiveness bit is more about me healing that experience within my own body. But it's
Right.
like I have to be willing to open up the door of forgiveness in myself for that healing to occur. But
Mm,
it's never me it's actually not, because I've been working with this a lot. It's never me sending the healing energy, or like the healing or the forgiveness energy to the perpetrator or the person that has harmed me. Um it's actually me working in myself and working
yeah.
deep inside myself. And the thing that I've really discovered is that basically, like, that part of me is stuck in duality. That part of me is very much stuck in like the I've been harmed by you, I'm keeping you separate from me, you are bad, I am not bad, etc., etc.
Right.
And
Right.
when I am either kind of pushed against to a certain brim of like I can't go any further without growing, without healing this part of myself, usually that's by the time that I get to the forgiveness bit, or if I'm just suffering too much from it or whatnot. Um, it's really that what I've read from Hazrat Nikon is that forgiveness is actually for God. So like
Mm,
forgiveness is bigger. Forgiveness is not a mental exercise. Forgiveness is something where you're calling in a divine mercy, a divine energy. And when I'm calling in a divine energy, I'm basically calling God in. And it's
mm,
like in that moment, it's almost like I'm reopening the door of saying, like, I'm God, you're God, everything is God, everything is one.
mm, mm.
And up to that point I can't, because it's too painful. It's too painful for me to allow that to happen. And the thing too is it's not this mental exercise where I'm like, and now I will forgive you. It's more like I'm letting God in, and I'm letting God's mercy and divinity within the pain. And in that moment, the energy of the divine is so much bigger than myself and so much bigger than my concepts of right and wrong, that
Mhm,
that's what facilitates the healing.
mm. Well, that's very beautifully said. I just want to remind all of our viewers we come from the tradition of Sufism, the Sufism of Hazrat Inayat Khan. We teach Heart Rhythm meditation. This is all about the experience of unity and unity within the heart. And when we are holding on to anger, we are holding on to duality. I mean, as you said so beautifully, right? We
Yeah.
are we are not seeing life as one, right? We're holding on to that separation. Um, and we're that means we're holding on to illusion, right? That is not the truth of life. Um,
Yeah.
we have some comments here from some of our guests. It it's the Lionsgate 88. All right, good to see you
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
on.
Mm,
And our new friend,
same time.
Mr. Rashid, you can forgive and strive to make accountable at the same time. In my opinion, hate the sin, not the sinner. Yeah, right. I
Yeah,
mean, it
that's
doesn't mean we're
beautiful.
saying,
Mhm.
um, that the action is fine or whatever, right? Forgiveness is an inner uh, quest, right? It's within the self, and that's the um,
Yeah,
yeah.
accountable.
Um, so I think that's the thing that people will often sometimes bring up, right? Like, well, if you forgive, then the person has gotten away with it, and they'll get away with it
Or
again or
they
something.
or they don't deserve it, and I kind of agree with that in some circumstances. Sorry, but I know that there's I don't mean to be so dark, but I'm not talking about somebody stealing my cookie.
No,
I'm talking about, like, there's some dark stuff in this world,
yeah,
and, you
no, we have
know,
to get into it. That's a
yeah.
good. Does a person deserve it? You know. Um, Now that's interesting,
Mm,
right? Because the term, when you talk about what someone deserves, you're talking about the kind of opposite energy of forgiveness, right? You're talking about karma, Karma is you reap what you sow, right? And
mhm.
like, what do you deserve to sow? Well, what you reaped, right? I mean, that's karma. And
Right.
forgiveness is the great exception. It's saying, yeah, you did this, and you get forgiveness, right? You get a pass, you get mercy. And does anyone deserve that? You know, it's not about what you deserve, right? That's like you speaking a different language. When you say, "Oh, I
Mhm.
you earned this, you deserve this, whatever," right? That's the language of karma. You know, but forgiveness is a
That's
different energy. It's a different thing, right?
right,
No one
and it's not up
earns
to
mercy.
me.
No one earns forgiveness. No one deserves
Yeah,
that, right? You don't earn love. You don't deserve love, right? Love is something that
yeah,
falls on us like rain. Wonderful. It's beautiful, but you don't earn that, you know? So it's the
yeah.
wrong language it's the wrong container to hold that kind of energy.
That's beautifully said, Asifar. I never thought of that. That just blew my mind. You know, it's so beautifully said, and it's like this is kind of the conclusion that I've been coming to is like it's actually not up to me. I'm not the judge.
Right.
I'm not God. I mean, I have divinity
Yeah.
within me, but I am not God. I'm not the ultimate judge. I'm not the source of forgiveness. And even when I'm doing the healing work and meditating on this, I am not the source of forgiveness. I'm opening the pain in me to forgiveness, to the energy of forgiveness. And it was so funny because I was having this experience with
Right.
somebody and and I was just like, well, I'm like, I'm not actually the judge and I'm just gonna bring God into the moment right now. I'm just gonna bring God in because God's gonna do whatever God wants to do with this. Like I don't mean to sound like I'm placating or something like this to a person's behavior, but it was just this profound realization of like, well, it's not actually me anyway. Like,
Yeah.
it's not actually my job. And like that's what you're saying with the karma is like this idea that it's not my job to deliver the karma, in that sense.
And how liberating it is to let go of that as a responsibility, right? Like, oh, I've got to hold on to this because it's right. So it would be wrong, and it's right and wrong, right? Like that energy, right? Um,
Yeah.
that's not yours to hold, right? That's not any of ours to hold. Thank God, we don't have to. sit in judgment. I mean, that's a role that we take on. I think,
Big
our minds
time.
like this, right? Our minds kind of like
Big time.
they this is right, this is wrong, these are the compartments, because
Here's the
we like to,
rules.
yeah, here's the rules, we like to categorize things. But the fact is that that doesn't really work, right? I mean, because you don't know the whole context, right? I mean, like, this is one of these like basic philosophical exercises where you might say, like, tell me what is universally wrong, you know? Tell me something that is always wrong, no matter what the context. And the problem is there are, there aren't things like that, right? Right and wrong is very sensitive to the context, right? So how much more so is that with each person, right? Each person's heart. Um, so, this is not to say that there is no right and there is no wrong, right? I mean, like, we don't live like that. We all have our deeply
No.
held beliefs, right?
Well,
Um,
and there's
a lot of the
consequences
conflict
to
in the world is that
actions.
we don't agree
Yeah,
necessarily on what those things are, and we don't take into
yeah.
account each other's things, right?
Yeah,
You
and
give
there's
yourself every excuse
consequences
in the
to the
world, but you don't
yeah,
give that to somebody else.
and there's consequences to these actions is the thing. Is like it's
Yeah,
not that you can just go and do whatever you want and there's no consequence. There's always consequence. But that, like you're talking about, that's more of the karmic debt you might create for yourself or someone else might create for themselves.
yeah.
And we don't actually know how that plays out. One of my classes was psychology of consciousness at the U of A, and this woman came in and she did this study, and she talked to all these people all over the world from all different religions, all different traditions, who had had NDAs, near death experiences, where they had died for several minutes or more and then came back to life, and they had experiences during that time of being away from their body, being outside their body,
Mhm.
past the thing. And every single one of them from all the different traditions from all over the world had the exact same story of what happens after we die. And which is incredible. And like one of the things that they said, every single one of them, is that you have a life review, right? And that's like commonly talked about,
Right.
but you feel everything of everyone around you.
Mm.
And so if I harm somebody, I'm going to feel that,
Yeah.
even if I hadn't felt it in my lifetime. When I die, I will have to feel that. And I thought about this and I was like, if a person caused major harm to many people beyond themselves, they would have to feel it. And I think that's probably what people call hell, like, like this, or divine justice, of like this, like they would have to experience it. And sometimes if they cause so much harm, that would take lifetimes, you know what I mean, to like be able to really process, to really experience that. And
Right.
again, so it's not actually my job, and it's not my job to do the karmic, payment, and I'm instead just carrying the poison of what this person has done in my body, in my heart, in where whatever chakra has been affected.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's well said. I mean, it's like part of this is like we need to stay in our lane. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we're here to grow and develop ourselves, right? I mean, not to concern ourselves with the business of everyone else, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
enough that we're given just to understand, experience, develop ourselves, right? That's a lot already, uh, without concerning ourselves with what every other single person's actions. And of course, it's a great test, like when those actions hurt us. I mean, that is very difficult, right? So, you
Mhm.
know, this is why the great traditions, Sufism, and but all the great mystical traditions speak of the importance of forgiveness. Recognizing that that is hard work and important work. That letting down that burden, that's something that we have to do periodically, right? That's not something we do once necessarily, right? That's a kind of
I
practice that you
wish.
come back to. you
I
know,
wish it was only once.
but yeah, wouldn't that be
That'd
nice?
be great. That'd be
Right?
great.
Here we have another nice comment. They don't deserve it. Might be not responsible for welfare of others, and to let it pass. Um, Forgiveness is an absolute for God. Yeah,
Yeah, an absolute for God. And that's why it's like when every time that I do a meditation on unforgiveness, it's a huge privilege of mine because I am doing something that actually belongs to God.
Yeah.
I'm opening up to something way beyond my limitation, way beyond my concept of
Mhm.
self. And that's that it brings me so much emotion to even think about that, like to think about like actually that belongs to God and like we're lucky that we are conscious enough to even be able to open that door sometimes.
Yeah. Hazrat Khan, of course, describes karma in a very interesting way, right? He says, life is a dome, and we live in the echoes that we create in this dome, right? That just like a physical dome, we make a sound in
Mhm.
it and it bounces back, right? Um, and being a musician and taking this sonic metaphor for what is karma. So just because we have forgiven somebody, that doesn't mean that they're not still living in the echoes of their actions, right? I mean, you know,
Mhm.
it just means that we're not still holding on to that burning hot coal, right? To mix up
Yeah.
the metaphors, where uh,
Yeah.
they're still living in the echoes that they've created. So karma is still operative, right? I mean, we're not our act of forgiveness doesn't necessarily completely clear the deck, right? I mean, because actions still have consequences,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
forgive and that person might still bear consequences because that's an energy, and that energy is I mean, like, consider, right? If you lie a lot, people are going to stop believing you, right? I mean, like,
Mm.
does it require one person to be like, that person's a liar? I mean, not necessarily, right? Like, because that person does that, it's going to become well known, right? um, and
Mhm.
that happens whether we hold on to the anger and don't forgive or not, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Beautifully said. Let's meditate. I love this. I just love the insights you're bringing to the table, Asatar.
Yeah, well, thank you for the topic tonight. I think it's a good one. We got to keep exploring
Yeah, it's a never ending.
it. One of these days we'll be done with the need for it. We'll just be so
We'll
good at
be we'll be dead. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, anyway. Um, but we're alive right now,
it.
everybody.
We are.
So let's go ahead and take a seat. Find your meditation posture, and I just want to thank you for being brave enough to meditate on forgiveness with us tonight. Okay. This is a big one. So, come into your meditation posture and then deepen your breathing and really notice if there's already a lot of resistance to breathing right now, just the topic itself, right? And that's okay. There's no judgment from me on that or Asatar. You are alive. Your body, your breath, your heart are all responsive to exactly what you're feeling. And so we're not trying to force anything, and we're not trying to be some washed out hallmark expression. We are trying to do real work here. And that starts with first just acknowledging exactly where we're at, taking a moment as you deepen your breath and feeling what's going on inside. Even just us talking about this could have triggered you. You just want to breathe. If you find any tension, you just want to breathe right into it and just help your body start to open up to a full, deep breathing cycle. It's very helpful to expand your abdomen out like a balloon on your inhalation, just to help your diaphragm muscle move further down and more of your diaphragm muscle to open. And as you exhale, most of that exhalation is typically organic, but then we hold the stagnant air in our lungs as kind of a form of control and a safety net. But I want you to really give all that breath out, really express the depths of you by expressing out the last bit of air, the last bit of spirit within yourself. We're making room, and when we make room, much more life floods in, but you direct it, and you direct it low to the lower belly, the lower abdomen, the lower spine. And you open those channels up as you do. We are so trained to be numbed out all the time. So a lot of us, we don't even face ourselves on any level. And that's just kind of what we're taught. We are born helpless. We have to learn from each other all the time. That's the nature of being human. And so some things we have to unlearn. One of the things that we have to unlearn is to be numb. And one way to unlearn that is to use your breath as a stream of life and a stream of your own conscious awareness, flowing deeper and deeper into all the parts of yourself, into the depths of yourself. Asatar and I are here with you. And keep tuning in, keep opening up your breathing channel, keep opening up your body and becoming more aware of the depths of yourself and of your heart. All the feelings are welcome. The full spectrum. I'm not trying to tell you to not be sad. I'm not trying to tell you to not be angry. I would never do that to you. But right now, we're just starting at the beginning, and I want to ask you to feel what you're feeling. And to use your breath to almost feel it even more. A line from Hazrat Inayat Khan is coming to me. Great be the battle in life, the truth in the end shall win. What is truth? try to answer that from the light of truth in the deepest parts of your own heart. And then start to tune in with your heart. So your deep, full belly breathing, and now I want you to really find your heart. And I want to invite you to feel the pain in your heart from the wrongs, from the betrayals, from the wounds, from the battle of life. We're actually not trying to oppress or suppress our heart's voice. We're actually making it louder, at first, especially. Are you brave enough to dare to even feel what your heart is trying to say? The experiences that it holds in the fabrics of the muscles. You know, keep listening to your heart. When our hearts is a muscle, and if you cleaned out all of the blood, it becomes purely white, like a crystal. But you're alive right now, and so your heart is bleeding. But even though it's bleeding, its true fabric is clear, crystal clear. And you're not meant to have that happen because you are in life. And it's like the red dirt is like the soils of the earth, the red part of the earth. And I guess apparently the blue parts of the earth are just pumping through. They're pumping through your heart. Can you feel that? Can you feel that your heart's alive, living, human? Thanks God that you're alive, that you are alive. And you know what comes with that? Pain. Not only pain, but one thing that comes with it is pain. Thank the universe that I'm alive and that I get to experience the depths of being human, the depths of pain. Can you feel your heart being alive right now? Don't ignore it. Don't pretend you're not alive. Don't pretend. Don't pretend. Feel what your heart has to forgive. Feel what your heart still holds, the poison or the knife or the wound or the burning. Something has affected you at some point, and maybe you're still holding it today. It's still with you, still carrying it around, lugging it around like a baggage, like a hot coal, as Asatar said. Sometimes it's heavy, like a rock. Sometimes it just feels bitter. And I want to invite you to feel that tonight, only for a little while, only enough so that we can open the door for healing. The scream, the internal scream, the injustices. And now we're going to go further. Now that we've surfaced it, you're going to have to seek, are you willing? Are you willing to open up to the divine? Are you willing to open up to divine mercy, to free your heart of this burden, to free your heart, to liberate yourself from having to carry the poison, to having carry the sin, if you will, the unhappiness, if you will? Are you willing to do that? That's the surrender. Opening up, saying, I don't actually know, but I know that I am feeling pain. But I don't know beyond this. And I want to surrender, and I want to surrender to mercy. I love myself enough. I love the universe enough to do that. So go ahead and find your heartbeat. So placing your hand on your heart, or finding a pulse point, or finding your heartbeat within. Inhaling and exhaling, deep full breath with your heartbeat. 8 heartbeats in and 8 heartbeats out. Doing your best that you can. We realize that takes time. Just practice right now with us. It even feels good to place my hand on my heart, like, oh, good, I'm not alone, right? With all of this in myself. And now I want to invite you to place a word for mercy onto your heartbeat. And just one word. If you have a different word, you can use it. There's a few different ones, right? Like Elazon is a word that you could place on your heartbeat for mercy. And tonight I'm going to use Rahim. So every time my heart beats, I'm calling in Rahim, which is divine mercy, which is beyond my limitation, beyond my human form. It's something beyond me. It's something I'm asking the one life or God to please bring to me and to please bring it into my pain, into my wounding. Can you breathe it in? Can you breathe that in? Rahim. Every heartbeat as if your heart is calling it in. And your heart is calling it in because it's bigger than you. It's an energy. It's an invocation. Full breathing in. You did so good. You place hands to heart center and really just thank yourself and thank your heart. You can keep going if you're really feeling that. Just keep going. It's like medicine for the wound, balm for the wound. Try to stay in this space and we'll open our eyes again until our next meditation with Asatai.
Mm, nice meditation, Leah. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everybody who's meditating with us. Very tender topic tonight. So thank you for being willing.
There's something so powerful about putting your hand on your heart, isn't there? It's one of these things where we do it when we're in a place of sacredness. We do it when we're in a place of honor. We
Mhm.
do it when we're in a place of being with our deeply held values. So there's something that I think is very magical about doing that in meditation, and even the two is different, right? The one is more of a public kind of pledge, right? We do this, pledge of allegiance, right? So two is got a different energy to it, right? Two is adding to that sacredness, right? We don't do this so much publicly, you know.
Mm. That's
So,
true.
but I think there's something very interesting about taking a, um, I mean, the posture that we're in affects our energy so strongly. Um,
Yeah, that's so true.
yeah. So I'm
Mhm.
just kind of noticing that, um, I mean, of course, that's a minor key to your to the meditation, right? The theme, but
No,
I
but it
think,
helps because it's like that feeling of not being alone in a way. Like it's so much to ask your heart to
yeah,
feel, especially on this topic, you know.
yeah. Mm.
Mm.
Well, yeah. Should we keep? Oh, wait, we have another comment here. Let's see. Uh, to clarify, I meant it would be irresponsible to let things pass in our material world moment. Forgiveness aside. Yeah, I don't think anyone's talking about letting it pass exactly. You know, I, which I think sort of suggests that, like, nothing happened or something, right? Like, um,
No.
forgiveness isn't acting like nothing happened. It's
Mm.
it's um, it's acknowledging that there was a breach, at least for yourself, right? Or at least to you. Maybe you don't get agreement from the other person, right? But to you, there's been a violation, there's been a breach. And
Mm.
I think it's simply just saying, um, you know, I am not going to hold on to the negative effects of this within myself, right? On
That's
just on the
beautiful.
on the most personal level, right?
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that we're saying I'm forgetting what happened, right? And I think, there's also that sense of, like, a lot of times there's anger at oneself, right? Like, why did I
Yeah,
not see
good
this
point.
coming? How is,
Yeah.
we're often a party to this in some way, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you failed to protect yourself. Maybe you trusted somebody you shouldn't have trusted. Maybe there's a pattern here that you have been trying to change, and you didn't change it. And here's the, I mean, there's often a lot of that anger towards oneself, and then we're also reluctant to let that go because we're like, well, then I'll never change, right? Then if I give myself a pass, I won't learn anything,
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
and I don't think that's true either, right? We don't necessarily learn by holding a grudge against ourselves, right? Um, just like the other person doesn't learn necessarily from us holding a grudge against them. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
but I do
Hmm.
think that sometimes things do need to change. I mean, like, we would
Yeah.
be fools to ignore that, right? I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
there was a violation. Maybe you didn't have the best boundaries. Change that. Absolutely. Make
Yeah.
do what you
Totally.
need to do to try to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the case, there's so many different cases where that could involve forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to be universal here, but, like, we might need that intensity, but is holding on to anger and blame the best use of that energy, right? Or
Right.
maybe that's even preventing you from making the the changes that you need to make, or maybe it's not the best
Hmm.
energy to make those
Hmm.
changes, right? That's the you know
Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about enabling, and I think it's such a hard topic because it can easily slip toward that.
yeah.
And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about liberating our heart from the burden that's been caused from the wounding, which is a very different thing.
Yeah, and there's often, I think, an illusion of control that comes with it, that's at play here, right? That we say, like, Well, if I don't forgive, then, I'm not letting them get away with it. That's an illusion, you know? I
Mhm.
mean, that is flattering to think that, your feelings matter so much to somebody else. Maybe they do and maybe they don't. Most of the time they don't, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time people are not torturing themselves because you're angry at them, you know? They're
Mm.
like, "Well, you're a dick," or whatever, right? Like they'll very easily dismiss your anger, you know? So, you know, we don't want to hold on to that illusion that I've got to, right? Or even with ourselves, so we can, even if we bear a grudge towards ourselves, we are perfectly capable of still making that same mistake again, right? Or something like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, let's meditate, Asatar. I want you to have enough time.
All right, let's go
I
back
want to
in.
hear what you have to say in meditation. It's very selfish of me.
I'm interested in that too. Yeah. What am I going to say? All right. Well, we're going back into it. So take your upright meditation posture. As we were talking about posture today, there's something so powerful about opening your chest. So often we hunch, we hide the light of the heart underneath the basket. And there's something very powerful and very brave about opening the chest physically, in the sense of just that the shoulders are not forward, the spine is upright. There's an opening. Now we tune into the breath and we do the basic steps of heart rhythm meditation. We seek to make the breath deep, to make the breath slow, to make the breath rhythmic, to make the breath heart centered, and to make the breath full. And this gives us an incredibly powerful foundation that we can then use to build on whatever energies it is we're working with, whatever theme, whatever part of ourselves, because ourselves is so vast, whatever energy within ourselves that we're seeking to develop, we can tune that from once we have created this foundation. So, again, making the breath deep means you breathe in and allow your belly to expand, allow your belly to relax and expand as the breath fills. And as you breathe out, you contract your belly. To make the breath slow means you are taking a longer time to inhale and taking a longer time to exhale. And you may begin to notice that you need to exert more control with your abdominal muscles than you typically do when you're breathing. Now we want to make the breath rhythmic and heart centered. And we do this by breathing in for the same length of time as we breathe out. And we make it heart-centered by tuning into the heartbeat and breathing in for the same number of beats as we breathe out. Now, this can be a challenging part of the practice. For some of you, you'll be able to do it very easily. Some people can, and others might struggle to feel the heartbeat. You can place your fingertips on your chest. You can place your hand on your chest. Still can't feel it, you can just imagine your heartbeat. Imagine that length of time. Focus on it. Listen for it. Listen to your heart. As you breathe, feel that your heart is receiving energy and being revitalized and replenished. And as you breathe out, feel that your heart is expanding and radiating energetically. And the final step is to make the breath full. So that is to breathe in, fill up the belly, and then keep on going. Allow the ribs to expand and the intercostal muscles, breathing all the way up into the chest as well. And breathing out and reversing that process, breathing out the breath from the chest, squeezing the abdominal muscles, bringing the belly button toward the spine, squeezing out as much breath as you can as you exhale, controlling that inhale as you allow the breath to come back in, but smoothly, under control, never pausing, never jagged, smooth, even, rhythmic, controlled breath. Now let's tune this toward forgiveness. Let's tune this toward mercy. The Sufis have a practice of invoking the divine forgiveness, the divine mercy. And that is Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Very powerful. These are part of the Islamic names of God. And in Sufism, one calls upon them, calling upon that attribute of the divine. Remember that it is us holding on to the pain, the anger, the betrayal, the disappointment that is cutting us off from the one being. Maybe there's some of that that you're ready and willing to simply let go of. Use your breath to let go of whatever you're ready and willing to let go of. The breath is great for casting things off, for shedding that which you no longer need. That anger, that disappointment, that pain, that violation, that all of that, that is simply energy. That's energy that you no longer need. That's energy that's in your way. you can give that back to the universe. Give that back to God. Give that back to the one being. That energy is helpful somewhere else. And as you breathe in, allow that connection to be restored. Allow that channel to be reopened by holding on to that pain, that violation. You're preventing that unity from happening. You're also holding on to illusion. You're holding on to separation. You're holding on to, I'm here, you're there, God is over there. That is simply not the truth. The truth is, we are all one. The more clutter you sweep away, the more room there is for the divine presence. The more space there is in your heart for that infinite flow of love and light. Do you feel how your heart longs for it? That just like with each opening, even if it's small, that your heart says, yes, yes, give me more of that love, more of that light, more of that connection, more of that truth, more of that peace. It is so endlessly revitalizing and replenishing. And what gives you more room? Allowing that which you no longer need to fall away. Laying down the burden of the judgment, the need to punish, who deserves what. Give that back to God. All right, when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return to the space you're in.
I just feel like I could sit in this energy for hours.
Mm.
Mm.
It's nice, right? I mean, like you feel like it has its own built-in reason to do it, right?
Yeah, and it just feels like it's like so needed. It's just so needed.
Yeah,
Like part of like all this issues in the world going on too is like everybody's just carrying that around with them, and it's crazy making in its own right. I'm not saying it shouldn't change. I'm just saying that everybody's so burdened right now. And so like this feeling of being able to have a place to process our pain is so important.
yeah, very much so.
Mm. Thank you, Asatar.
I notice for myself, it's like, I talked to before about that illusion of control. I think that for myself, I often feel that it's harder to forgive myself than others. And
Mm.
and it's like if I don't forgive, then I stay in control, right? I mean,
Mm.
small
Interesting.
self stays in control, right?
Right.
Because I say like, oh, that was my fault. I was so bad, and that was I did like this, and but then it's like I don't acknowledge that there's lots of forces outside of myself, right? And that actually, well, I did the best I could given the circumstances, and the result wasn't my liking, but it wasn't because of some badness within me or something, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's holding on to that same illusion, and what for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's not a gain to it, right? Not really. I mean, if there's a gain, it's a false one, right? Because that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have another comment here from
Oh, yay. I'm so glad you're here.
that energy
That energy. Go ahead, Asatar.
somewhere else felt like a powerful invitation. Yeah, good. Oh, I
Mm.
see. To release harsh energy. Yeah, good.
Mm. I'm so happy you're here.
Nice to
Rachel.
see you. Yeah.
Mm.
It's funny what different phrases and different things. Sometimes if something appeals to somebody, and you know, I think this is why we need lots of different voices. Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
you know, the way I say it might work for somebody. The way Leah says it might. You know, basically like
Yeah.
there's two kinds of teachers, and we have both of them here, luckily. So that's
But it's a, yeah, I mean, and it's also just never ending. And so it's just always more, or like even when the teacher like reaches us or, somebody shows us, let's put it like that, like somebody shows us something, then we forget again.
like we forgave somebody, and then now we're mad again. I mean, that happens.
Oh gosh. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this exercise with us. And we hope that it was very helpful for you. And we realize that it takes a lot of time. And so please take your time with this and maybe spend a little bit more time breathing with yourself. Just know that we are supporting you on some level energetically as to the best of our ability because you are connected to our hearts through love.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Mm.
much for meditating with us this evening. We'll be back next week. If there's a topic you'd like to hear about, please drop us a comment, or connect with Leah on Instagram or me on Twitter or whatever. And of course, if you'd like to support the show, go to our Patreon page. And thank you to all of those who have supported. We really appreciate it. And
Yes, thank you.
we'll be back next week. So until then.
All right. Thank you.